We're building some Dagger Class Scout Striders. These ones. Hello, I'm Marcel.
And I'm Mrs. Snakeworks. So this box has arrived in record time from the USA. They must have drove all night.
I drove all night to get to you.
There's also a Roy Orbison version.
I drove all night to get to you.
And a Celine Dion.
I drove all night to get to you.
So many versions of that song. Which one was your favourite? I'm going to use fan favourite and either knife to open the box. But don't tell Kurt Russell though.
Where'd you get that?
He's always asking me where to get one.
Before we can open the box, we have to cut all the seals.
No, not that seal. Or that one. So inside the box we have a post-it note. It has snake written on it, and I think that's referring to my channel. Unless they meant to put a rubber snake in the box and forgot.
Snake! 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 What the smack is going on?
There's also another box in the box, the actual box this time. We shall have a look at that in a moment. Before sending cardboard boxes to the big recycling bin in the sky, we always like to double check we haven't left anything behind in them.
It turns out we hadn't. So here we have our main box. It's a nice chunky cardboard box and tells us everything we get inside. Let's turn it around so you can see. Dagger Class Scout Striders 28mm scale resin model kits. 2 complete models supplied unassembled and unpainted for experienced modelers only. That probably counts me out. 14 years and up. Magnets provided for weapons options. Magnets being provided is a big win. I think this might be the first time I've had a kit that came supplied with the magnets. So well done Battlecastings for that. Have a round of applause, well done. Okay, so here we can see the Scout Striders. There's 2 in the box with a fair few weapon and head options included, which is fantastic. One of the Striders I like to refer to as bird style, and the other is insect style. Now the way its tail is up, should be that way really, shouldn't it? Reminds me of a Devil's Coach Horse beetle. But that might be because Snakeworks Jr. and myself found one recently out in the wildlife, as Mrs. Snakeworks would put it.
Doesn't like this photo taken. Bye!
To get into the main box, I need to break the seal, which is a shame. Andy actually struggled with it. Anyway, inside we have some cards, some paperwork, and some bags of parts. Let us move the camera a little so you can see what's going down. Let us move the camera a little so you can see what's going down. Okay, so underneath the bubble wrap we have a few bags of parts. Weapons, heads, more weapons, magnets, a pair of MDF bases, the main torso parts, and finally what appear to be a load of leg bits. Again, we check we haven't left anything behind.
And again, we haven't. Okay, so we better read the accompanying guide, just in case there's anything critical we need to be aware of. Dagger Class Scout Striders BC003. This is a resin kit, conceived in a retro sci-fi feel. While it is a detailed model, it is designed to be retro in styling and finish. It is designed for experienced modelers aged 14 and up. Some parts may need a little filing to fit. Remove any resin pore gates with a sharp craft knife and file. I recommend cleaning all resin parts with soap and warm water and allow to dry before assembly. The Dagger Class Scout Striders box is a resin set of 2 model kits, the smaller brothers to our Cutlass class, with multiple head and weapon choices. All 6 heads can fit either model, and 4 of the 6 main armaments can also be used on either model. The smaller secondary weapons can also fit either model, 4 being supplied in 2 types. Assembly is very straightforward, the leg assemblies being the same for each model. The set comes with variant feet parts to allow posing of the legs in various ways. I recommend experimenting with leg positions as they are very posable. The kits come with pre-moulded magnet hulls, and magnets are supplied to enable weapon swap-outs. I recommend a 2-part epoxy or superglue. Be aware that with this type of non-VOC resin, superglue grips quick and holds tight, so get the parts in the right place quickly. One very important rule is to get the magnet polarity right. Once those little boys are installed, it's a nightmare to get them out, but don't ask how I know. Mark one side with a Sharpie and check a lot before gluing over both models to enable weapon choices over both Striders. On the back of the guide is a sort of parts list and instruction manual. It all looks pretty straightforward, so in typical dad fashion we shall be ignoring these. I think we can just about cope with that, but let's have a closer look at the contents, shall we?
So, first up, we have the business cards that came in the box. Feel free to check these websites out and even use these QR codes. I have no idea what happens, but I know you guys like to try, and then tell us in the comments below. This is the bag of magnets. I'm not sure of the size, but I assume they fit the holes in the weapons. We better just check to see if they are in fact magnetic. We can check with Andy.
They are indeed magnetic. A bit like my personality. So these are the MDF bases. As you can see, they are of the round variety. If you're like me, you're dying to know how big they are, so let's measure them. It turns out they are 100mm round bases. Now that reminds me, why are kings and queens so good at measuring distances? Because they are rulers. I'll get my coat.
Okay, so of the resin parts, these are the biggest, chunkiest parts, the torsos. One is for the bird version and one is the beetle version. Both appear to be good casts with only a couple of bits to tidy up. In the next bag are 3 different weapons, what appears to be a twin-linked autocannon, a twin-linked las cannon, and a missile launcher. You can see here where the weapon's attached to one of the torsos. The fun part is deciding which one to use. We've already made our decision.
Now obviously you can just swap them out with the supplied magnets. Another bag of weapons now. In this one we have a massive chain glaive thing, a retro themed missile launcher, and what looks to be a multi-melter, one of my favourite weapons in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The next bag is a bit like a pick and mix. There's all sorts in here. Some secondary weapons, a pair of little stubby arms which attach to the sides of the torso, giving it a T-Rex look, a head that looks like something out of the Matrix, a bulbous looking head, and another head that has a big overbite, like the September T-Rex. September.
We also have a beaky bird head and a weird gas mask head.
Not going to lie, the gas mask head is a little bit strange and creeps me out. We also have what appear to be Peter Croucher's legs, along with some shoes that we used to have to wear in PE lessons back in the 80s. Oh, and some crotch pieces. So with all the parts checked over, there's nothing missing and we can begin the build. But before we begin the build, we have to do one more important, albeit boring, job. Washing the parts. It's a good idea to get the old mould release agent off, or else it can cause havoc with your painting down the line. It can all peel off.
Here we have our washing tub of choice, a Morrison's mint choc chip ice cream tub. Sadly, they don't sell the chocolate flavour anymore. Nobody does. We then squirt a little dish soap in too. This one is a scented plug and poppy. What? This one is a scented plum and pomegranate flavour?
Yeah.
I told you to check the script. It smells lovely, so nice that you can't help but give it a taste. We then add some lukewarm water and our parts. We like to let them soak for a while before wheeling in the elbow grease.
Now, I myself probably waited about 30 minutes, but I find letting the parts soak overnight is always best. Using an old toothbrush, don't use your partner's unless you want to get in big trouble. We then give all the parts a damn good scrubbing. Amusingly, my toothbrush has a vibrating function, so does extra work when it's switched on. Sadly, the battery ran out halfway through. After washing the parts and giving them a rinse under the tap, which I apologise for not filming, I then set the parts aside to dry. Yet again, I like to wait overnight, so there's no sneaky little drops of water hiding in all those crevices.
Starting with the legs, first we like to remove any mould lines or prominent slips and oddities with a combination of file and knife. Marcel's not the most meticulous person, so you might find a few bits we missed over the course of the video. He seems confident we didn't though. Hicks. Seems I thought that was a typo. Who the hell is Hicks? Hicks seems confident we didn't though.
Something we missed.
You didn't miss anything.
Using Superglue, some cheap stuff I got from a local tack shop, I glued one of each pair of legs in a straight position. Next, I felt it would be a good idea to get the crotches stuck on so I could start working out the poses. I already know what I want to achieve, it's just a matter of trying to make it happen. For this particular torso, I wanted the twin-linked las cannon on top. I have, however, noticed a slight bend in those barrels, so give me a minute to fix that. I didn't film it, but I actually used a hairdryer. Bear with me. This one, in fact. I used a hairdryer to heat up the part gently and then coaxed it into the preferred position. It didn't take very long at all.
Here we can see the weapon now has a straight barrel. If you put a straight edge on there, it's probably not perfect, but it's certainly good enough, especially at arm's length. Also, with a turret attached, we appear to have made a phaser from Star Trek. If we had an editor with special effects skills, we would have put some bullets and sound effects in, but you will just have to imagine it.
Now, when we hit 50,000 subscribers, we can probably hire an editor. So please hit that subscribe button so we can have some special effects. Just like that. The next thing I did was stick the first leg on. I spent a fair few minutes trying to get the angle of this leg just right. With the first leg glued on, the second was very simple, very similar, but with the lower leg raised in what looks like a prancing pose. I think I've seen horses do this when they jump up and down on the spot. I don't know what the proper term for it is.
Oh, what a dream of a transition.
Next up, we need to choose some feet. There's lots of options for various poses in the kit. We are going to start with this sort of bent one. I'm not sure what we call a bent foot. A clasp foot? We then glue the feet on. We use that bent one on the forward foot and the opposite bent one on the other foot. We really need to look up the correct term for this. If you know, then please let us all know. Next up, we need to pick a head. We are going to use this bird-looking head. It looks like a bird because of that beak. Birds are beaks, you know.
Birds have beaks.
I said that.
You said birds are beaks.
No, I said birds have beaks, you know.
I think platypuses have beaks too. Very strange creatures indeed. I think they're poisonous, or venomous I should say. Poison is what you ingest, venom is what you inject. Here we can see our first Scout Strider is almost finished. There's just a couple more details to add, and I think it's looking great so far. The first little detail is this pair of T-Rex arms. I'm not sure what they achieve, but they do look good. There's also a spot for one of those ball-mounted weapons. They look a bit like heavy stubbers and melter guns to me. For this one, I think I shall pick the melter gun. Now, I myself decided to pick the weapons and loadout which I thought looked coolest, and that would probably be the most fun to paint. I'm not worried about what's meta or best in game. I'll leave those sorts of things for other content creators.
With those extra accessories added, the first of the 2 Scout Striders are fully assembled. I think it is awesome. What do you guys think? All that's left to do is base it, but more on that later. Let's build the other one. All the body and leg parts are pretty much the same. This time we have gone with the bulbous head.
Now between you and me, Mrs. Snakeworks said it looks like a pea. Here we can see the main kit assembled. It goes together exactly the same as the previous one, so I've spared you watching all the same steps again. You can thank me later. Okay, it's weapon choice time. I'm actually going to do a minor conversion as I only want one big weapon on this knight, even though it's designed to have 2. Can you guess which one I'm going to pick? I decided on the twin-linked autocannon. However, due to the mounting point, we have a little problem. The barrel fins are pointing outwards instead of upwards. I can't be having that, so it's conversion time. Now, if I had used this weapon on top of the other knight, I wouldn't have had this issue, but I refuse to change my plan on the weapon loadout.
Okay, so here we have our weapon dilemma. I have to say at this point Marcel was worried. Rotating those barrels is going to involve breaking out the tools, but if we didn't do it, it would bug us forever. So f it, let's do it. Placing the barrels on a big lump of blue tack, Marcel then used a little saw to cut the barrel tips off. The saw was about as sharp as an inflatable banana and took forever to cut through. Remind me to add saw blades to the hobby shopping list. And cut to the results. All we did was tidy the cuts up and superglued those barrel tips on. That's much better.
I'm glad I did it actually. It wasn't too much work at all. Let's have a play with the magnets next. I begin by using superglue to stick one in the hole in the weapon. It's not quite as big as the one in James Bond though. That one looked like a giant bath plug, didn't it?
To get the polarity correct for the second magnet, Marcel marked the glue side with a Sharpie. They used to be called permanent markers. Sharpies is quicker to say though. Then Marcel put the marked magnet Sharpie side down in the hole on the torso. As he's an idiot, he tried to press it into place with a metal file. A lollipop stick or similar would work better. Who knew metal would stick to magnets, eh? Anyway, after pulling it off the file and getting it into position, we have the horse magnet in position. I recommend giving it time for that glue to dry, else the magnetic power will pull it out again.
Horse magnet, did you say?
That's what it says! What's it supposed to be?
Where are you looking?
Anyway, after pulling it off the file and getting into position, we have the horse magnet.
I
What's
don't
this?
know what that's supposed to say.
Should I omit the horse? And just the magnet?
Yeah.
Anyway, after pulling it off the file and getting it into position, we have the magnet in position. I recommend giving it time for that glue to dry, else the magnetic power will pull it out again.
Now I used to use like an aerosol spray activator for the super glue to make it dry quicker, but I've lost it. Please remind me to add some activator to the shopping list, along with sellotape and printer paper. Now on the other side is another hole. I'm going to stick something in it that you're not supposed to. But before I do that, I need to fiddle with it a bit. I start by reaming the hole out, or chamfering the sides. Basically, making the opening of the hole bigger, as at the moment it's just going to be too tight. I don't want to push into it and tear something. When the hole is sufficiently wider, I can then stick my secret part in there, a stubber. This is supposed to be used on the other weapon mounts, I think, but I only wanted the one big weapon, and this is a pretty good replacement for the other. Now this way, both knights only have one main weapon. I want them to be the same, loadout-wise. Now if you fancy chatting about weapon loadouts, then feel free to come and join our friendly Discord server. That's not behind a paywall. I'll leave a link in the description below and one up here somewhere. We look forward to chatting to you there.
After a few hours drying time, the weapon is now safe to test with the magnet, and yep, it's magnetic. Luckily, the magnet's staying in place, so no budging is required today. That's supposed to be one sentence. Luckily, the magnet's staying in place and no budging is required today. With that last magnet check complete, these Scout Striders are actually now fully built. Well, almost.
There is still one more thing to sort out, and that's the bases. So in the kit, you get a pair of these 100mm MDF round bases, which are perfectly fine. However, me being me, I need that slightly angled chamfered base edge, so I sourced some plastic ones. Now, due to my posing, we need the back foot attached right at the very edge of the base to be able to center the miniature above it. And I think it looks really good. It's time to load up on Superglue. I've emptied a huge load onto the feet. Now, someone once told me that less is actually more when it comes to Superglue. I don't know if that's true or not. If you want to get your own Scout Striders to try and superglue together, then check out the link up here somewhere. I'll also put one down in the description below.
With half a tub of superglue applied, we then lower our Scout Strider into position and then hold it for a few seconds to let the superglue go off. That's a technical term for drying. To allow it to dry without any stress, we turn them upside down and lent them on things, like this. We left them like this for about an hour.
It's the only way to be sure.
Now, while we put our paints away, I just want to give a massive shout out to all the channel members and Patreons. Dan Yallop, Lee Blackley, Donald, Pine Tree, Bobzilla, Charles Marlowe, Andrew Marrington, Dr. Lee, Nick Ellingham, and our newest member, Briars and Bantams. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. We love you all.
We do indeed. Now, before we check out the finished article, I just want to show you this. This is the sellotape that I've been referring to, which has sadly run out during the course of this video. I use it to sellotape my scripts up onto the post. Can't think of another word for it. Anyway, on the bottom of my sellotape dispenser is an intriguing little inscription, and it says, if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, John. If you are enjoying the content on the channel, then please consider joining us on Patreon, the link to which is in the description below or here somewhere. I also want to say, every time you ask your viewership to like the video, the like button underneath the video actually lights up. I don't know if it just does it the once, or every time I say please like the video. Did it light up? If it did, please let us all know if it lit up. It might have lit up the previous times I asked, or the first time. And also, by the way, remember that Mrs. Snakeworks has said that when we hit 10,000 subscribers, we're allowed to order a Warhound Titan. So if you want to see me and Mrs. Snakeworks attempt to tackle that beast, then please hit that subscribe button. That's enough e-begging for now anyway. So without further ado, let's check out the finished articles, shall we? And with those bases on, the Scout Striders are complete and looking mighty awesome. I was going to put a screw in from underneath the base, but they are holding surprisingly well. So I'm going to leave it for now. A decision that might bite me in the arse later, but we shall see.
Here we can see the Scout Strider next to a Cerestus Knight Lancer to get an idea of the size. If Marcel was clever, he would have used a Knight Armiger, but I have no idea where ours went. We shall try to do that in the painting videos. This time we can see the first of the Scout Striders in all its glory. This is the one I like to refer to as Birdhead. I think it looks really good and I love those little T-Rex arms on the side. Probably useless, but they do look good.
Secondly, we have the Scout Strider that Mrs. Snakeworks said looks like a penis. I think it looks more like that bug that I showed you before. With that minor conversion work, I think it's come out fantastically, and I cannot wait to get started on painting these. Do you guys have any old hammer painting scheme suggestions? I shall have to have a brainstorm session.
Done.
Okay.
Which of those Scout Striders was your favourite? If you want to see some more hobby related videos, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. And as always, thank you very much for watching.